welcome to episode 2 of Cut 2 Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Hamilton, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Connor and Kyle. What's up, guys?
Hello. Welcome to our second episode.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And we're joined tonight by our guest, Cameron Carpenter. How are you, Cameron?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It's fun. It'll be an experience.
It sure will be. Because on today's show, we'll be discussing The Avengers: Age of Ultron, the sequel to the billion-dollar mega hit, Marvel's The Avengers. We're going to get into rumors about Jarvis and talk about James Spader being cast as Ultron. But before we get to all of that, we're going to cut to, see what I did there? A new segment, In Other News, which features several big stories that have been making the rounds through this week for Gotham City and Warner Brothers' untitled Man of Steel sequel. They will be spending $131 million in the state of Michigan.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
And Warner Brothers will receive $35 million in incentives from Michigan for shooting there. I think Detroit is the perfect place for Gotham because they're both run down. And
Detroit is the city in America that probably really needs Batman. Nicolas Cage,
RoboCop,
get on it.
It's funny. It's gonna be so cheap to blow up things on city blocks in Detroit, and yet at the end of the day, it's gonna be helping the economy of the city. I think it's great. You know, I'm up for Detroit being Gotham. It just has that look to it.
Seriously,
if there was one city that League of Shadows was going to go after, it would most definitely be Detroit, Michigan.
They just need to take Nicolas Cage, give him a bat suit, and send him to Detroit and see what happens.
I don't think anything would happen, Kyle.
It would be amazing to watch. They could just have someone follow. They could just attach one of those whatchamacallit cameras,
like a steady cam or a go cam,
to his face, and that could be the new Batman movie.
We'll see. Transformers 4 is currently filming in Chicago, I do believe, but earlier this week there was a leak of store displays that showed the Transformers 4 logo with some claw marks. And the rumor is that the Dinobots will be finally making their on-screen, silver screen appearance. What do you guys think about that?
I don't want a new Transformers. Unless it's a reboot.
If this is as close as we're going to get to Mark Wahlberg fighting a robot dinosaur, then I'm all for it. But aside from that, I mean, it's an unnecessary sequel, but don't knock it till you've seen a giant robotic dinosaur bashing through Chicago.
That's the closest thing we're ever going to get to Mechagodzilla.
That's probably true.
Putting that out there. I don't really care. Honestly, I like Wahlberg. I've liked him in everything he's in almost. If I do see this film, it'll only be for him, just because I like his, what his collection of work has been in the past. So I'm sure he'll put out a decent performance in this. I liked the third one, but it's boring. It's become a boring franchise.
Well, I definitely think the Dinobots will spice things up. I'm actually looking forward to this movie. The third one, I really liked it. It sort of gave a spark. See what I did there?
Stop that.
Okay, I'll stop. I can't help it. Yeah, so that was a good one. I'll probably edit that stuff out. Okay, the next story. Interstellar. Yes. Chris Nolan's follow-up to The Dark Knight Rises. No, it's not a sequel to The Dark Knight Rises.
Interstellar 5555 either.
Yeah, it's not in reference to the Daft Punk extended music video from 2003. Some news coming out of that camp this week is that it finally started production, and Matt Damon has joined the cast in an unknown role.
He's gonna be Batman.
I read the screenplay. There's no mention of Batman anywhere in that screenplay, Kyle.
He's gonna have a cameo at the end.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, I'm Matt
In a
Damon.
cat face.
And that is totally plausible because the main character, Cooper, who's played by Matthew McConaughey, has 2 sons. And due to events in the movie, he ends up seeing them grown up, but they only have like small appearances. So he might be playing that character unless Christopher Nolan did a complete reworking of the draft Jonathan Nolan, his little brother, wrote, and that's the one that I read, and added more characters. Or
That's what I think
or
happened.
Matt Damon could just be voicing. There are some robots in the screenplay that I read who do talk. I'm not sure if they're androids, but he could be doing some voice work. But we'll find out. Also, there's reports out that the story will center on the importance of corn and other produce because it's set in a sort of a rural area in the distant future, and they're saying that Matthew McConaughey will work with the scientists to try and go out and find other planets that are suitable for growing corn. That sounds a bit corny to me,
Sounds
if I do not
very
say
strange.
so myself.
Caleb, you have to stop this.
I
Now,
can't. I'm on a roll, I
I've got
think.
a question because you said you've read the screenplay, and it's not
Yes.
a singular question or anything like that. But does Nolan have a character in the screenplay that fixes problems merely by buying something in large quantities, like any kind of company or a restaurant, a fancy restaurant? Because Nolan has a tendency in his films to have a billionaire character or a character of great wealth who fixes problems by just purchasing something. He's got Bruce Wayne does it all throughout the Batman series. He's got Robert Angier in the Prestige, who just buys a cloning machine. He's got Saito in Inception, who just buys an entire airline. So I'm wondering, is there an element, and I hope there is, because I hope he continues it, because it makes me laugh every time. Is there a character that is a billionaire type of character in this?
In Jonathan Nolan's draft, there is not a character who does that. There may be in this reworked screenplay that Christopher Nolan wrote for production, and I haven't been able to. I don't think anyone has gotten their hands on that yet.
It's not.
So we'll find out when it comes out if there is such a character, and that I imagine there will be, because in the end of the screenplay that I read, Matthew McConaughey returns to a sort of richer civilization. So it might be, he might that character may come in there. I don't remember all the details exactly because it was so long ago.
It's just a very interesting trope
Yeah.
that I don't know if he was going to continue.
I think visually this story has a lot of potential. I mean, you Caleb kind of told me a few elements that were in Jonathan Nolan's screenplay, and it's just, I wouldn't say the story was impressive, but it's very intriguing on how they are going to go about this whole sci-fi element and make it new and fresh, because it's so easy to go boring and dull in the sci-fi genre.
Right.
So I'm excited for it.
Well, my only thing is that this centering on the importance of corn and trying to be very green and trying to find another planet. I mean, it's all been done before, and I really, really hope that is not, that story is not true, because the screenplay that I read, it was smart, it was totally original. It borrowed from elements of sci-fi that we've seen before, but the end result was, it just sort of left me, with a new outlook on space exploration, and it was just very refreshing. It left me with something to think about. But that's Interstellar, and we look forward to seeing that. Big news that came out this weekend: Bradley Cooper, he was rumored to be in talks for the role of gun-toting Rocket Raccoon, a talking bipedal rodent who is a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's Marvel's sort of space opera. It's not Star Wars. It's not their version of Star Wars. But Bradley Cooper has signed on to voice this fan favorite character.
I think Bradley will do fine, I guess. I think it's a little peculiar how they got such a big actor to just voice a raccoon, yet I think for this film to be financially successful, they are going to have semi-big names in the cast.
True.
Hence why Diesel is voicing a talking tree.
Well, that's not official yet.
Well, everyone knows.
The whole deal with the Guardians of the Galaxy is they're not very well known. Like,
yes.
so it needs to be some big names behind it. Like, I think Iron Man was the same way when he started.
Yes.
He wasn't a big name superhero. So
he was well known though.
Well,
I think that in the case of Guardians, just how the casting's gone so far is that they are really unknown characters, but they're casting really like strange people for these parts. Like I wouldn't assume Chris Pratt as Star-Lord on it. I wouldn't assume Lee Pace as Ronan the Accuser. When I think of the Collector, Benicio del Toro, as fantastic as he is, and I think he'll do great with the role, I don't think about him in that part. And Glenn Close and John C. Reilly, like, these are all people who collectively don't make sense in a sci-fi epic. Yeah. And that's why I wasn't ecstatic to hear about Cooper. I had other choices in mind. But to me, I can't knock it because the casting for the entire thing has been so out there and so strange that you just kind of have to look at it and shrug and be like, you have to trust James Gunn to an extent, and you have to trust that he's written this part, and he's kind of been vocal about writing the part for a very specific person. So if he's going to cast the way he has been casting, then he's going to throw in Bradley Cooper for Rocket Raccoon. I have to sit back and trust him for that because it seems like it's completely in line with everything else he's done for the picture already.
I completely agree, yeah.
Well, moving on to our final piece of other news. Earlier this year at the Sundance Film Festival, a little movie was screened that many people weren't sure would ever be seen again. That's because it was shot on Disney property, so we're talking Disney World and Disneyland, without the permission of the parks. It was called Escape from Tomorrow, and due to the nature of how it was shot, I was very interested in seeing it, and I just had to sort of accept the fact that I never, ever would be able to see this movie. That all changed earlier this month. This is a bit of older news. It finally got a release date, and I'm not sure, there aren't any details of, if anything was worked out between Disney. It finally got a release date. I'm not sure of the details, if there's any sort of deals made between Disney and the filmmakers, but it will be released on October 11th on video on demand, so you can watch it on your television, or you can see it in a movie theater. In many the top markets around the country. Now, moving on to our main topic of discussion, the Avengers Age of Ultron. So I went to Comic-Con this year for the first time, and the one thing that I think everyone knows about Comic-Con, whether they've been or not, is that Hall H is where the big shit goes down.
Yep.
I slept outside in line.
Wow.
The night before
Commitment.
The Marvel Studios panel, I saved a spot for myself, Dan, my editor at movieviral.com, and our friend Cody, who I was reading my Twitter feed just before we went in, and he said, oh man, I didn't get in line. The line's too long. And I said, Cody, I'm in line. I'm sort of at the front. Why don't you come join us? So I got Cody in as well. We sat in Hall H all day. Marvel was the last panel for the movies, so that went from 10:30 a.m. to about, I want to say 7:30, 8 p.m.
Just sitting there waiting for the Marvel panel?
No, there were other panels. We had Warner Brothers and Legendary, Fox.
Oh, did you get to watch all the panels?
Yeah, we watched all the panels. They don't clear the rooms. That's the thing. So if you want to get into these panels, if you want to see Marvel, you have to first camp out overnight. Wow. And then sit through everything all day because they don't clear the room.
Wow, I've never been to a con like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've been to ones where it's difficult to get into a room, but nothing like that. Nothing where you have to camp out overnight and stay there all day, and that's just crazy. Why don't they organize that a little bit better? I mean,
That's
Well, there's so much
it's
people
sort of
that
impossible.
go.
Yeah.
You just when there's that many amount of people, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. But anyway, so we finally, Marvel finally starts. We see footage from Thor, Captain America, James Gunn, and the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy made a surprise appearance. And then right after that, another surprise. Kevin Feige sort of sits down and he says, "Am I forgetting something?" Then Joss Whedon appears. He's like, "I have one more thing to add. I don't have much to say. I just have one more thing to add." And the lights go down, and then it's black screen, and we hear Tony Stark. He says, "Oh fuck, what is his line from the Avengers that he says?"
Which
The one if it's Loki about avenging the Earth, but you can be demolition will avenge it. That one.
It's probably that one. And then you hear Bruce Banner. He says, "We're not a team. We're a time bomb." And so at this point, the Iron Man helmet sort of appears, and people start to cheer. But something is going on. The helmet is being crushed. So as we get different angles and more quotes and everything. I can't hear what's going on because people just keep cheering and cheering and cheering. It gets louder and louder and louder, and finally we focus on the front face plate, and then it sort of turns, and then it's Ultron. And at this point, the place just erupts. I got up, jumping up and down. I was screaming, "Holy shit! Holy fuck! Fuck! Fuck!" I wanted to shake somebody. I'm like, "Am I dreaming?" I lost my voice, so I just sit down for a little bit and just sort of process what I just saw.
You had
Because
a
after
fanboy
this,
moment.
I had a fanboy moment. Because the title card came up. It says Avengers: Age of Ultron, and I'm like, holy shit! I just read the comic series Age of Ultron. That was Marvel's latest comic event just before the one they launched earlier this month, Infinity, which features the return of Thanos, who we saw at the end of the Avengers. I'm like, wow, how are they going to do this? Because this involves the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Luke Cage, a bunch of characters that we have never seen on film before. And so, I'm just all these questions are swirling and swirling and swirling. And then, a couple weeks later, Joss Whedon comes out and says, it's the movie just shares a name with that series. It's not an adaptation of that.
which is the only they can't really adapt a comic in their universe because it's a little different than the actual Marvel universe. There's tons of differences, which is okay. They built a giant film universe. So as long as it works in the film universe, I don't see any problem with them changing things.
Right. Well, that sort of
for example, the whole what do you call it? Mandarin fiasco. If it works okay in their film universe, it's okay that it differs from the comics. If it fits together and makes a well-produced story, then I think it's okay. And I think Iron Man 3 was a good... There were a lot of elements in that story that kind of wrap things up for the Iron Man trilogy.
Which brings us to our next point of discussion. While we know that Hank Pym was the creator of Ultron in the comics, it was also announced that Hank Pym would not be the creator of Ultron in the Avengers sequel, which has a lot of people, very upset.
Well, the Ant-Man movie is coming out after that, isn't it? It's scheduled for release after the Avengers 2?
Right.
Yes.
October of that year.
I'm fine with Hank Pym not being the creator of Ultron in this universe that Marvel's creating, but at the same time it's such a missed opportunity because in having Hank Pym in the Avengers Age of Ultron in any shape or form would have been such great promo for the Ant-Man solo film that would come out later the same year. It's a missed marketing opportunity.
Yes.
Story-wise, hey, let's be honest here. What brings people to these movies? Tony Stark. He is the most popular character in this universe. Same goes with Wolverine. Do people go to the X-Men films to see Halle Berry as Storm? Most people not. Most people go to see X-Men to see Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. I mean, there's always that one character that has the most marketability, and that's Tony Stark. So I'm not surprised that Tony is the creator of Ultron in this universe. I don't have an issue with it. It gives him something to do, especially with the ending of Iron Man 3 and, taking the fragments out of his heart and saying, the ending of Iron Man 3 was so ambiguous. It's almost like Tony was just going to take a step back for a while. And it looks like this is an interesting way to throw him back in the situation and make him back into being a part of the chaos that comes with being an Avenger.
Well, I think a lot of Iron Man 3 was the end of his story arc. I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to wrap up his story arc. So they might start focusing on other characters in the future. Iron Man will obviously still be in the Avengers movies. He'll probably pop up in other movies here and there, but I don't think he's going to be the main focus of the franchise as much anymore. And that may be a negative decision since the entire franchise is built on Robert Downey Jr.'s back.
I think to me, it makes most sense that they go with Downey Jr. and Ultron, especially with Stark being the creator of Ultron, because the entire Iron Man franchise is about technological advancement. I mean, it's a theme that they don't escape. It's a theme that they come back. He makes these prototypes of Iron Man in the first one. The second one, they want to use it as a weapon for the United States. And the third one, he has to deal with that same issue with terrorism. It only makes sense that, in essence, Tony Stark continues to build the villains of his own franchise. He ultimately creates every bad guy he faces. And I think that it's a return to that. And that's why him as the creator of Ultron instead of Hank Pym or instead of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think makes a lot more sense, because you have to, with Ant-Man, you have to sell Ant-Man first. You can't have Ant-Man ride on the back of Ultron, which is why I think it's a good reason they're keeping Ultron out of Ant-Man and putting him in Avengers 2, because right now I think Thor is suffering a lot because the emphasis seems to be on Loki. Loki seems to be the big draw of Thor, and I don't think they want to make that mistake again. So by putting Ant-Man as his own, I guess, bandstand leader in his own film, and not having to put all the emphasis on the villain, who I guess we have now have no idea who the bad guy is. I don't think they've released any information on that. I think they're going to have a more solid picture, and they'll have a more solid fan base if that film is successful, which I don't doubt that it will be, just knowing Edgar Wright.
It may not be successful, but it will be a very good comic book movie. Edgar Wright is the master at doing like comic book style on the screen. Anything he's directed kind of has that feel to it, even if it has nothing to do with comic books, like Shaun of the Dead. All the scenes where he's like all the like action type scenes.
Visually, he's always on point. He knows the difference between the mediums, and he knows how to incorporate comic visual styles in cinematic techniques really well. And I think his best film before that is Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, of course.
I saw World's End. I guess it was 2 or 3 days ago, and it's a fun film. But I think World's End is probably the weakest of his Cornetto trilogy, but it furthers that he knows how to handle action sequences incredibly well. So anyone who's worried that Edgar Wright can't handle an action sequence, they just need to pop in and Scott Pilgrim for the 50th time, or just go watch World's End. That's out right now, and I think their fears will be well rested.
Or any of his movies, like he's even things that are not action based, he makes them fun and action based, like you would see in a comic book.
Well, with changing the origin of Ultron, we sort of lose, Hank Pym. That was a big part of his character. And like you said, we don't know who the villain is for the Ant-Man movie because Hank Pym, Ant-Man, doesn't have a very good stable of villains.
Correct.
And with Tony Stark creating Ultron again, which is a problem I have with the Iron Man series and Marvel Studios as a whole, because with Iron Man being the center of their universe, it makes him the star of every movie in a way. I won't say every movie, but okay. So for Avengers, take Avengers for example, that was supposed to be about everyone coming together. However, Tony Stark was once again the center of attention. He created Stark Tower. Stark Tower was a central location where they put the Tesseract emitter machine Tony Stark was also the person who brought the team together, although inadvertently, because he made everyone realize that what the Avengers were supposed to be about through the death of Agent Phil Coulson.
Yep.
Then, of course, he's the one who ultimately saved the day.
Yep.
So, in a way, the Avengers was Iron Man 3. Then we have, Iron Man 3, and now because we don't even know who's going to. This is just all conjecture and speculation.
Yes.
If Iron Man does, because it only seems natural, like Cameron was saying, if Tony Stark is the creator of Ultron, then that makes him the star of the show once again, and that will make Avengers 2 Iron Man 5.
I think there's a reason that this keeps happening, though. I think if they throw Robert Downey Jr. on the screen as Tony Stark, he's always going to steal the show. I think he's probably the best character that they have, and
he's already the most layered.
Yeah, and they were talking about the possibility of replacing him. There's no way they could replace him. They can't.
They are.
It won't work.
I'm sure it will. I mean, Ben Affleck is replacing Bale, and in 15 years, someone's going to replace Downey Jr. and someone's going to reboot Iron Man. It's inevitable. Just like in 15 years, I'm sure someone's going to reboot Saw. Films are always going to be. Yeah, just like the next guy who plays Joker. I mean, I think when they do reboot Iron Man and someone replaces Downey, I think you have to go a different route. Maybe focus on the alcoholicism side of Tony Stark that was in the comics. You just have to go different, because I don't want someone in 15 years to just try and do what Downey Jr. did.
I read somewhere that the first Iron Man movie, a large portion of it was unscripted.
Yes.
And it was all just off the cuff, Robert Downey Jr.
Yep. And it worked so well.
That's why I don't see he's the center of everything. And like you were saying, he's been the main character of every movie he's been in, because he's so good at what he's doing.
Well, if Tony is the creator of Ultron, there's only one way it could happen. Well, there's not only one way, but there's only one logical way it could happen. And that's Tony's artificial intelligent butler.
His version of Alfred.
Yes, his version of Alfred. I was sort of reading Twitter the other day, and there was an interesting article that came up on my feed, and it said there was a alternate version of a scene in the Avengers that showed Jarvis being bad. I watched that. I'm not sure if you can find it anymore. The full version that I saw has been pulled from YouTube.
There is a clip of it in the ECT from Machinima. We'll post it in the show notes.
We'll link that in the show notes. But basically, it was just before Loki came to see Tony Stark in Stark Tower, when he sort of confronted him and threw him out the window. Tony was asking Jarvis to get the Mark 7 ready for launch, and Jarvis said, "Well, it's not quite ready, sir." And they sort of said something to the effect of, why are you, back with these people? You're better than all of them. You're this, you don't have any business being here. You can just take out these aliens by yourself. And then there was a thing where he said that something about stripping away, human emotions and everything. It was really, really deep and really evil and sinister. And someone pointed to that and said, that's Jarvis being Ultron. Because Ultron, as many of you may know, Ultron is a artificial intelligence who's hell-bent on destroying all organic life, human beings, and really, human beings. He deems them to be inferior and weak, and they just don't deserve to live. So if Jarvis, does become Ultron, that's how it'll be done, because Tony is always, he's programmed Jarvis to be sort of self-sufficient anyway, and if Jarvis, decides he can just sort of upgrade himself, like in the way that Ultron does, But anyway,
I'm here for it. I think it's a cool angle for a corrupted Jarvis from any one of his past experience. The software to become corrupted and eventually evolve into Ultron. I think that's so cool and it's interesting and I'm intrigued and I hope they go that route. I hope this is a rumor that turns out to be true.
another thing with Ultron, he's a robot, so robots are usually made out of metal. Now Ultron's made out of a special metal, adamantium, and because adamantium is the metal that covers Wolverine's bones, Marvel may not be able to use that as the alloy that Ultron's made out of.
Why not?
Because
legal issues, right?
Yeah,
That would
because
be terrible.
adamantium is associated with 20th Century Fox and the X-Men.
I could see 20th Century Fox having a bitch fit if Marvel decided to do that. So it's probably going to be something that's not in this universe, which at the end of the day, it's insignificant.
I really hope they buy the X-Men franchise from.
It's not going to happen.
Yes, not happen anytime soon.
I think it is just weird. I think it'd be very interesting if they somehow melted down Captain America's shield, which apparently is going through some changes for the new film. It's got a different look and things.
Yeah.
And he's made of vibranium because that's something that they've introduced in Captain America 1.
Yeah. And I was just about to say that, I was going to start a new rumor. Hey guys, Ultron's going to be made out of vibranium, and then that's going to be their way to introduce the Black Panther.
Yep.
Oh.
It's
all coming together. It's all part of the plan. Terrible Joker impression aside. In an interesting move, we don't have any of the heroes officially casted yet, even though we know they're all coming back. That hasn't been announced. But Marvel decided to, drop the news yesterday randomly that they've casted Ultron.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, they've already got someone who's going to play. Now, we don't know if he's going to, physically play Ultron a la Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, correct, with the full body motion capture.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
I guess that would be sort of useless because Ultron has sort of a static face. It's like like Iron Man's helmet. It's like a helmet. It doesn't. I don't think it moves. So there wouldn't be any need to, get his face in there. But he'll definitely be providing the voice for Ultron. I was sort of shocked. And it was actually crazy because I had just sent out a tweet about, Ultron's voice the day before this happened. And I said, whenever I read Ultron in the comic books, I sort of read him as a Chromie Cobra commander, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
Yeah.
That's how his that's how his dialogue's written normally, is that it's written in that format of italic, slanted, heavy bolded sometimes. I mean, it's not it's oftentimes printed in a way that you can't read it as just another person's voice.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about, James Spader? He's definitely played, villains in the past. He had a stint on The Office in season 8. He replaced Michael. I saw that. He was pretty funny there, but he's also going to be on NBC's The Blacklist, which launches later this month.
I've seen the commercials and they look good.
Yeah. So
I love it. I love it so much. I think James Spader is a great actor. I love his voice. First of all, he's just always had a great recognizable voice. I've liked him in everything he's in. He was in actually a film with Robert Downey Jr., so they have history together. I really love this. I think it's inspired casting. I'm really excited. A little bit shocked that James decided to be a part of a film like this, because before this casting, I don't know if he would have. I never pictured him in this kind of film, but here we are. And I couldn't be happier, to be honest. I'm really excited, and I think if they do go the corrupted Jarvis route, I think Spader and Downey can have some really cool scenes together. So that's what I'm most excited about. I'm excited about the relationship between Spader and Downey Jr.
I'm I'm completely on the Spader train. I like if you have to, and I hate because it sounds like a demotion, but if you have to think of James Spader as anybody, you can think of him as a poor man's Kevin Spacey, which I hate saying because Spader is so terrifically talented, but he doesn't have the notoriety of Spacey. But he would be the next logical step down if you were going for the kind of character that he normally is playing if he's going to be villainous. And I think that I don't know. Whedon came out a few weeks ago and was talking about the characterization of Ultron and how he's just a big bad dude, and it's weird to think about Spader playing this truly heinous, villainous, bad to the bone character because he's normally the sarcastic aside type. And if you watch the trailers for The Blacklist, he's got that going for him. He's kind of if Tony Stark were evil, it would be James Spader doing the same delivery kind, which will be interesting if he does it that way or if he's going to go all out. I don't know. I'm on the train. I'm up for it. As far as I'm concerned, Marvel's never had an issue with casting.
Nope.
They've not miscast. I don't think anybody in recent memory. So I when it comes to casting, I've got full faith in Marvel. They know what they're doing, and I didn't expect Jeff Bridges to be an Iron Man. I didn't expect Ben Kingsley to be in Iron Man 3. I didn't expect Anthony Hopkins to be in Thor. They managed to grab some of the best for really strange parts, and they always turn out to be fantastic. So I'm all for Spader, and I really think this will be the only time we see Ultron. So I think that might be why it's not much of a commitment for Spader. It's a voice. Yeah. Probably one picture, and then he can head out, cash his paycheck. And he may not even watch the movie. I mean, a lot of people know Paul Bettany, who does Jarvis. Last I heard, he hasn't seen any of the Iron Man movies. He's not seen the Avengers, and I think he's missing out. But it's such an easy paycheck, such an easy gig to do, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want to do that.
And he always just tells the story so nonchalantly. It's like, yeah, they call me up at the last minute and they're like, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come in and do it. And I go in and read some lines and, I go cash the check. I'm like, why don't you go see the movie? Like,
he's probably not a fan of that genre,
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of James Spader. I don't have any problems. Marvel's just got this thing where they just, like you were saying, Cameron, they just cast people that you don't expect to be in these roles. And they don't always turn out. We had Terrence Howard for Iron Man, and then we had Edward Norton for The Incredible Hulk. Both of them are no longer associated with Marvel, unfortunately. I liked Terrence Howard.
Terrence was okay.
I'm just a huge Edward Norton fan, so I was just kind of shocked to hear that, they recast him. I'm actually looking forward to see who they cast as the Hulk for Age of Ultron, because we know Mark Ruffalo isn't coming back.
He's not? Wait, what?
He's not coming back. Guys, this is an exclusive to Cut 2 Podcast. Mark Ruffalo and Marvel have had a falling out.
Over money.
He also wanted to, he wanted them to, be greener on set, because he's all for the environment and everything, and Marvel just wasn't having it, and so they kicked him out.
That damn Ruffalo.
I respect him for it. He was a great Hulk. The Hulk was actually my favorite character in the Avengers. He was just that was the perfect Hulk, and I'm just really sad to see him go.
Shame, really. Well, I'm excited to see Ruffalo in Hamlet 2, Hamier.
They already made a Hamlet 2.
Steve Coogan in Hamlet 2.
Yeah, there was a whole song and dance about "Rock Me, Sexy Jesus."
Good stuff.
They should have won an Oscar.
Should have.
Yeah. But I'll be writing the stage adaptation of that. Steve Coogan has signed on to reprise his role. I hope to win him a Tony for that one. But I guess that about does it here for us at Cut 2 Podcast. I want to thank our guest, Cameron, for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
Where can, are you on the internet anywhere? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at all hours of the evening for lack of life. I am at Lumetian, Lumetian, and you can come and read my perfect opinions and disagree with me and yell at me. I take yelling very well by weeping incessantly, so I look forward to being jeered and kicked and mauled in the future.
He actually went up against El Mayimbe
Shabam
a couple weeks ago, and he got blocked, unfortunately. But
Dang it! I'm sure he's crushed about that.
It's the small price you pay for the big battles.
But we sort of gave him a round of applause for calling Mayembe out on his BS. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will be back next week with a new episode, hopefully. If the world doesn't end or whatever.
Okay.
I went a little bit dark there.